this particular area is why genealogy. Uh, found in the 1880 census for Carroll County, Tennessee.
Okay.
Now, we're not sure, but on the one, it has a, a brother by the name of James Hansborough and another person by the name of Peter Hansborough. The problem, I can't find information on the two, but Jordan Hansborough, I've been able to find some information.
Okay.
Now, his wife was Julia Stone, and when I think if I know correctly, she was possibly born in Tennessee also. Now, I can't verify if they were slaves, but since you're born in 1834 and 1840 respectively, it's a good possibility there were. They wouldn't otherwise it'd be an 1880 census.
Your sound is bad. All right. Hello there, and welcome to Owl Theory. This is the Night Owl edition. So here I am with my aunt and uncle, and we are going to dive right on into the genealogy. So relatively, we are speaking. Take it away, Unc.
All right. The last time I was talking, I think I remember me saying, when you get old, you forget things. But anyway, the oldest family member male that we have is Jordan Hansborough on one side and Julia Stone. They're from a little small place called Tresvant. That's in Carroll County, Tennessee. That we know. He was born at about 1834. She was born in 1840. So with those times, it's a possibility that they were not free slaves because they're not on the 1880 register as free. So that may have been slaves at that time.
Okay. So that's how you found them, was by going to the registry, and that's what led you to Clark County, Tennessee.
Yeah, because your aunt and I have been to a lot of places. The National Archives in Washington, D.C. We've been to little small places like Mound City County Courthouse, where they only have one room, is real tight. And we were there. We've been places doing genealogy that you would forget about. But yeah, we have been places.
Yes, absolutely. Great. I love it. And so now, while you went to check out what started this whole journey, what did you find there? For, I would say, you said our oldest was Hansborough.
The way they spelled it, it's pronounced Hansborough, but the way they spelled it back in the old days is Hansbro. Hansbro.
Okay.
With an evolution of that name, since there's like, I think something close to 30 different ways to explain that name, or what I mean, the different variations of it. So everybody's had their hand in it somewhere. When it's all the way down, come down to Grandmother W. It was spelled differently. As a matter of fact, Grandmother W's brothers, which is Uncle Harry and Uncle Vernon, both spelled Hansborough differently.
Okay. Interesting.
So why they did that, I don't know, but that's what they chose to do.
Now, did you have like a birth certificate or some type of document stating that they were born during this time? And
back in the I will have to go to possibly the state archives in Tennessee to see if they possibly have the records. I don't have them here.
So now, when you saw it on the census, that's how you determined their birth.
Yes.
Yes, they do that differently. Yeah, lots of information there. Okay.
Well, you have to remember, back in the old days when they were coming up, if they were slaves, the only thing they got on a census is saying this is the person who's plantation they're on, you got one black person with age. They said nothing about names and all the rest of that. That happened after 1865.
Hey. Okay. So there were no like ledgers, so to speak, of
Check.
just that.
Unless you were a free black person back in those times, then if the state decided to register a black person, then you might be found on the census record. If they decided not to, nothing that could be done about it.
Okay. Interesting, very interesting, very interesting. And so, Grandma Liza's parents.
Yes, that is. Well, hold on for a second. I have not been able to find who grandmother Liza's father is, but I know her mother's name was Lily Lila, depending on where you're from. Last name Webb. I don't know exactly where she was born, so I'm going to just guesstimate where I think it is. It's somewhere in Tennessee also. So you got to remember, black folks in those days, they may have started in Tennessee, but as the years went by, they were mobile to go wherever the job was. So that's probably why they ended up somewhere close to Elkhart, Indiana, and then the South End.
Interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. I know that you mentioned that they probably were slaves. So obviously that may have some significance as to the records as well.
Yes.
Up until that time.
Yes. Like I said, the only person that let me rephrase that. As a black person back there, black male, if you were free, you had to have your manumission paperwork with you at all times. The reason why is what would happen is somebody can take you, even as a free person, and the next time you woke up, you're in Georgia, Virginia, someplace else, and you're being sold as a slave, even though you're free. Hence, that's where is it? 18 Years a Slave, the movie. That's where it came from. The guy who was in that was actually free. He got beat up and he was sold back in slavery, and it took him 18 years to get out of it.
Wow. Got you. Understood. Wow. That is a significant amount of time when you
and also
as prison outside of the bars.
Yes.
And also, Nikki, a lot of your family members, being that Tennessee and Kentucky was once part of North Carolina, they also more than likely migrated, some of them from North Carolina. The reason being, you have family members with a surname of Talley. Those Talleys are also in my family tree, and they're in another one of the DNA matches that Reggie and I share. As a matter of fact, Reginald and I, we do share a substantial amount of DNA matches. And so do you, your mother and I, which is, all of it is really weird.
Yeah, very
like I said, I think perhaps.
But was that not the, I guess, in the time that basically you were talking like plantation to plantation, that really if we were all in this same area, were we not migrating all at the same time, moving all at the same?
Yeah, well, probably not by choice. Not by choice. Now, the Talley family, I can tell you about that. Like I said, the Talley is connected to Reggie's side of the family. Okay. And some of those people lived in Warren County, North Carolina. When the slave master went to Tennessee, he took some of his slaves with him, and he left some of them in North Carolina. And we have a genealogy friend who knows where these grave sites are at in Tennessee. And also my mother, Reggie, and I, we went looking for the house that they lived in, but we couldn't find it because it was deep down into the woods there in Warren County, North Carolina. But it just goes to show you that no matter where you are or how far you're apart, you could possibly be related, very much related. But once again, Reggie and I and Dorita, we share several DNA matches.
Mm.
Yes.
Well,
So cousins.
most definitely my mom and Uncle Reggie would share DNA matches.
Yes, and I share DNA on different sides with each one of them. Yes.
That's
Yes.
very interesting. A small world after all. Ouch.
Well, we're not gonna we could talk about DNA till we're blue.
Yes, absolutely.
But remember one thing, what I try to tell people is you need to do your genealogy to make sure your child doesn't get married to somebody and then they say, well, we just did our DNA. We found out we're first cousins.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Most definitely. I
Yep.
definitely agree with that. That's why a lot of reasons why I stress it, hey, especially in this day and age when unfortunately it's a hit or miss around here, you know.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
true.
That's
But
all-
think
very
about
true.
it though,
all I
years
can say.
ago or decades ago, people didn't have any other partners to choose from. So the people that they partnered with were their first cousins. I have several cousins who have intermarried.
Mhm.
So I kind of come from an endogamous community where I live from in North Carolina.
Okay.
Endogamous mean that a group of people of the same tribe
Okay.
or clan or whatever you want to call it, or group, they know each other, live together, and they are related to each other.
And
it
so
doesn't
they just
necessarily
keep the
bring
cycle
about.
going, but doesn't that create? I mean, my understanding is that that is really not, not biblically speaking, yes. Also, that's not, but you create crazies, right? No?
Well, that's what they say. I've heard controversy that it does create maybe unstable children or offspring, but then I've also heard that it doesn't. But
I would think back in those times, it might have been a little bit more, able to be done, because a lot of times you may not have known your person because you were sold off or you were raised on a different plantation, or you might have,
yeah,
for whatever
Oh,
reason.
yes.
I don't,
And that's just like after surgery. Yeah. Hey, that's just like after surgery, Nick. I mean, not surgery, after slavery. The black folks who used to have kids at those times, now we're trying to go find them. No matter how many years later it was. Some were able to find them, some wasn't. So nobody talked about DNA back then. Nobody talked about DNA all the way up to grandmother Violet's time. Nobody thought about DNA and all the rest of that. So you got to do what you have to do. But sometimes just remember the way that black folks acted is because of the way that slave master did some things, and they just brought them forward. It isn't pretty.
Yeah, it isn't. It isn't pretty at all. Well, that takes us on to the next one. I know you said that who the father was not, something that was well known or is known. So how about where we are as far as how Grandma Liza met Grandma Dovey's?
How how they met each other. I joke all the time, and what I always say is basically just like young folks today, just like young folks when I was younger and all the rest of that, they probably met at a place called the Juke Joint, which is the club, one of those places that we got today. They may have met there. Mm-hmm. Who knows what they did? That might be one of the reasons. Other reasons why, yes, as your mother tapped her and told us during the last conversation we had, sometimes when they came out of slavery, they automatically got married the first chance they were given. So they stayed together, didn't go nowhere but between those two. But everybody, Black folks wise, didn't believe in that. Since at times, in order to get somewhere for Black folks in the old days, they had to walk. And when I mean walk, I'm not talking about a comfortable walk from here across the street. I'm talking about when they wanted to learn something, and they just say, for the example, they lived in Indiana. The college was in North Carolina. The only way they're going to get from point A to point B is to walk.
Wow. Wow.
So to answer another question that you might have later on, that's how badly somebody wanted to be educated.
Absolutely.
They're willing to walk that far to get it.
Absolutely. So that goes back to all that we used to hear when we were younger. And back in my day, I used to walk.
Yes. Yes. They probably
like, you ain't walking no 10 miles to get to school. You ain't know you ain't.
Well, see, it's just to change the subject for a second. I tell my granddaughter that. I used to tell my granddaughters. I used to walk from Violet Johnson's house to Pearlie. I used to walk to Thomas Jefferson, and I walked to John Adams. Ain't no riding. You walked.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. Now, this is what I used to tell everybody. Look, South Bend is so small. You can walk from the east side to the north side.
That's right. If you had to,
in 30 minutes.
Wow. I ain't gonna say 30 minutes.
In 30 minutes. I'm gonna tell you how to get there in 30 minutes.
Small town.
So you ain't walking that long now.
That's true. I'm sorry too. Go ahead with your plan. I'm sorry. It was something that had to be done to get to the point you wanted to get to. Just like when they traveled across the country, everybody didn't have a car. So they walked. And the walk could be from North Carolina all the way to Indiana. That ain't 30 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely not.
And majority of time is
think about it. I mean, I drive it.
Yeah. Yeah. And just the thing, because you drive X amount of time to get to work now daily. Just think of coming out of Mississippi. I don't know how you got there, but you got all the way to the steel plant in South Bend, Indiana to work from Mississippi. That's where the Lloyds came from, all the way in Mississippi. I don't know how they got there, but they got there.
Okay, wow.
Hey, there wasn't no jobs in so-called South. There wasn't no jobs for Black folks, especially men. You got to go do something to take care of your family. So got to do what you got to do.
And that also happened, Nikki, in Warren County, North Carolina. There's a group of people that live in, what is it, Cass County, Michigan, Reggie?
Mm-hmm.
They are originally from my hometown. During slavery, they escaped slavery by walking from Warren County, North Carolina to Michigan, because there's an underground railroad in Michigan. Yes. And as we speak today, they have tours to that same place there. It's not too far from Elkhart, as a matter of fact.
That's definitely doing what you got to do then to escape them chains.
Yes. Yes, they made it work. They were hard workers.
Yeah. Oh, very interesting. Very interesting. So you're saying that basically we kind of started out in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
We're hitting around North Carolina, of course, Indiana. Now, where was Grandma Debbie born?
She was actually, see, that's another question. Me and Aunt Katie,
okay,
we had a big time disagreement on that. Grandmother Debbie, yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Well, I Googled it, I GPS located it, and all the rest of that. There's no such town as Atwood, Mississippi. But there is a town called Atwood, Tennessee.
Oh, Atwood, Tennessee. see.
So that's where she was born at. Then I found out where her brothers were, her my name Uncle Vernon and Uncle Harry, where they were born at, and they were all born in the generalized area there. So that's where they came from. But Aunt Katie always thought it was Mississippi, and you don't argue with elders.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But you know what? And surprising you say that, because on my genealogy, I have it as Atwood, Mississippi.
Yeah,
So
I know.
I don't have to
That,
make that change.
thank you. Well,
Okay.
you haven't decided that you want to come play with us for genealogy in a while, so we're going to help you correct that. That's the
Absolutely, absolutely. So now, so she was born December the 18th.
yes.
Okay, so I do have that right.
That's basically what they say. Yes.
Okay.
But you got to remember also when we're coming forward from 1870 up forward, sometimes when someone was born, even with a midwife, there is no birth certificate. So what I try to do for genealogy purposes is no matter when I find any information for people, I add plus or minus 10 years to their age, no matter what it is. The reason why is it gives me more space to look. Plus, at the same time, Black folks, since they all knew how to hustle, and it didn't matter who it was, they knew how to hustle. It kept them out of wars like World War I, World War II, because they could say, I'm too old to do this, knowing that they're of age. Or they can just sit there and say, to that person, I'm 20, but to this person over here, I'm 25. This person over here, I'm 26. You gotta work somewhere. So they were good at changing their ages. So keeping those flux is hard.
Mm-hmm. And that's interesting you say that, because I don't know what I was doing, but at one point in time, of course, when I was younger, my birthday was August the 12th of 1970.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had a piece of paper or whatever it was that said this so that I could start school.
Okay.
Madison Elementary School, so I could start
Yes.
school. And I was always, and I would, sometimes forget and be like, when Columbus Day came around, back when I was young, I'd be like, it's my birthday. And they'd be like, no, it ain't. And I'd be like, yes, it is. They're like, oh man, but like you say, the change that was so simple, it seems like back then, for somebody to say, no, I'm this age, I'm that age, especially if you really didn't have any documents per se that you had to have to say your age.
I'm going to teach you about 1925.
Okay.
That in 1925, who was born in 1925 according to your records?
1925 would have been my grandma.
Thank you.
Yes, that would be.
What's her name? What's her name?
Violet Roberta Curd, January 19th, 1925. Now this says Elkhart, Indiana.
Yes. So guess what? I'm not telling you your information is wrong.
Uh-oh.
But what I had to do was this. There's a difference between getting records from North Carolina than there is from getting from Indiana. When we go back to Belinda's starting place where she's from in North Carolina, all we do is just walk to the county city building and get it for free. My records cost somewhere between $25 a pop, no matter how many records I got. In 1925, yes, grandmother Violet was born, but that was not her name.
Really?
See?
You're
gonna learn something about genealogy tonight. In 1925, if the woman was not married to the man who is the father of the child, he could not be put on the birth certificate.
At all.
At all. in the state of Indiana.
Okay.
So your grandmother's actual name is Roberta Hansborough, and I got a copy of her birth certificate.
Just Roberta Hansborough? The Violet wasn't even there?
I'm gonna show you something else again in a second. What happened was the young man that she was messing with, which was William Grandpa Curd,
Okay.
he did not like Roberta Hansborough, so he just changed her name. He had a daughter that passed away a while ago. Her name was Violet Lolita Curd. She passed away. So what he did, he just made Mama Violet Roberta Curd. Skip the Hansborough Curd. And that's the name she took for the rest of her life.
I do have that. I do have that. She had a sister that had passed.
Yes.
Named Violet as well. Now, I didn't know the story behind it as to why they were named the same thing. But
and it's because she passed away at an early age.
Okay.
So this will be a fun day.
Interesting.
We'll see how much fun you think it is by the time we through.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Oh, I forgot. I'm gonna have to learn that word. It's interesting.
Quite. I'm intrigued.
Okay.
Say the least.
All right. Well, let me intrigue you.
Relatively.
Yes.
Here.
Okay. I don't want to get outside of what you want to do. So
Grandma Debbie has her first husband, because we talked about this. She's been married 3 times. She has her first husband, and she has children with him, and they are.
That is Aunt Katie, and Bernice, Uncle Harry, Uncle Harry, Uncle OT, and Mom.
Okay, so now she has 4 children before she has my grandmother, your mom.
Yes, she was the baby of the family. That's William Curd's daughter.
Okay. And so I noticed that there was a mention of there was a big age difference. So how old was Grandma Debbie when she had Grandma Violet?
I think if I recall, she was like 26 years old.
Oh. So now I know she's saying quite old. How old was she when she had what Aunt Katie was her first one?
Yes. Let me see. Debbie. Hold on for a brief second. Change it. Elmo. Yes, Uncle Homer was actually the first child.
Okay.
Then Aunt Katie, then Uncle OT, and Aunt Bernice.
And then Grandma.
And then Grandma. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you remember, Uncle Homer was the one that was living in Detroit.
I did.
Aunt Katie, you remember. Yes. Aunt Bernice lived on the same side of town she lived on. Uncle OT passed away in 1966.
Yeah, before me, because I remember everybody except Uncle OT. I remember everybody except Uncle OT.
Check. Now going from there, they all had kids. Majority of Uncle Homer's kids stayed in Detroit, and Katie's kids was on the lake. And Bernice's kids was on the lake. So, and we were on the east side.
Right.
I did learn from, I think it's from Dorita, that quote unquote, we lived on the east side. They called that the good side of town.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, hey, you got me. You can teach me something. I never knew that.
Yeah.
So why did they call it the good side of town?
I think probably because we were closer to Notre Dame.
Oh.
You know, closer to St. Joe High School.
Oh, yeah. Well,
technically Roseland, you know.
Yes.
Mishawaka, you know.
So when was the last time you were home?
Pardon me?
Yeah, when was the last time you were home? In South Bend? I know. Well,
to be honest, when my last grandparent passed away, that was really the last time that I have been in South Bend Yeah.
So, and the
I
reason
don't
why,
go there. I
no,
don't go
and the
there. My
reason why I
children
say,
don't live there. Mom
and the
doesn't live
reason,
there.
and the reason why I say that now is because technically Notre Dame has its own zip code now.
I heard that.
It's South Bend, but basically virtually everything on the east side is completely changed.
That
You
in
got that,
St. Joe, right? St. Joe Hospital.
huh?
That in St. Joe Hospital, right? Is
St. Joe Hospital ain't
brings
there.
up.
St. Joe has now moved to Mishawaka,
Oh,
and
interesting.
they somebody bought where the hospital was at, leveled it, and now it's a stadium, something for a high school. Oh, it's changed.
For what high school? St. Joe or?
St. Joe Hospital. Let me see. St. Joe Hospital's gone. You know that was around the corner from
No, I
us.
mean St. Joe High School. You said it's a stadium for some high school. It's not St. Joe.
Yes, I don't know. I'm not sure. Every time I go by it, I'm not sure because I don't pay attention to the names.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, do you remember where AMP store used to be at?
AMP on Lincoln Way West? No.
Yeah, coming up the street, yes. Maybe it turns to the South Bend Avenue going up the street.
Yes.
It's completely changed. Literally, it's a high rent district now.
Interesting.
Everybody, I mean, you know, Notre Dame has alumnus who pay a lot of money for whatever they need to do. If you were to go back driving down our normal street, which is Notre Dame Avenue, used to be you could walk from Notre Dame, I mean, from the house to Notre Dame.
Absolutely right.
But now all of a sudden is you wouldn't be who to walk because the whole entire neighborhood has changed. It's literally price wise, us normal folk can't live there no more. Notre Dame done bought up everything.
Well, they've been trying to do that for a long time, though. That is another reason why they say, well, you live, where,
Yeah.
because remember,
Oh, yeah.
over there by where St. Joe High School is, there was that golf course. I can't remember what that golf course was. Right over there, like where we used to live on Napoleon Street, right over there. Hit the corner and thought you were in a whole nother, like, whoa, where am I? You know what I'm saying? So it was definitely a different texture of neighborhood. So
okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we know. All right. So you tell me what direction you want to go.
All right. So let's so now we have grandma.
Mm-hmm.
So what was her education? Let's go there and let's talk about her and then
She should have back in her times, there was no such thing as high school. It was a grade just below high school. So when they graduated, they went to work, literally speaking. The only difference is that I think for a little while, one of the reasons why Grandma Dovey always got mad at Grandma is because she was an independent person. What I mean by that is this. At 14 years old, she left South Bend, put herself on the train, the South Shore, went all the way up to Chicago to see her daddy. 14 now. Right. Because I found the school records that sat there and said they were asking, when is this child coming back? All Aunt Katie could, Amber, Grandmother Dovey could say is, I don't know, I'm working on it. That's your grandmother. Seriously independent person. So yes, I know she put a fire under everybody. That's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and then from there, she worked. Literally, I got my first job as a dishwasher in the South Dining Hall of Notre Dame. Okay. She wanted you to work and wanted you to understand how it works. I ain't gonna like it, but I did like that paycheck when I was young and dumb. So, hey, until I went to the army, that was okay. Yeah. But she did love it. Hey, you gonna have to work. You can't sit home and just loaf off of me. That's not gonna work. And to that end, one of these days, if you ever get a chance to talk to Aunt Jeanette, Uncle James and Aunt Jeanette know more about that because they're a little older than I am. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that'll be on another segment of Owl Theory. Stay tuned.
yes, ma'am.
And so she basically grew up in Indiana, was born there.
Mhm.
There. Of course, her father is from Chicago. Is Grandpa
No,
Pearl?
actually, he is from a place called Mounds, Mounds, Pulaski County, Illinois. Mounds, Pulaski County, Illinois. That's where he's originally from.
Okay, I think I've actually heard of that or seen it somewhere before, and thought
If
like,
you
what is
look
all
on
that for a city?
if you look on the map, all you got to do is look at Illinois and look towards the bottom of it. The very last town in Illinois that you're going south is Cairo, Illinois. They lived in that town just before that.
Okay, okay, okay. All right. So now I know Mom talked about him having siblings, and that Grandma was very, much a part of their lives, or a part of, interacting with.
Mhm.
So now
Yes.
I didn't understand the context of they were all the youngest.
Okay. What it is back in the old days, I don't know what it is. Just like some families today have 16 kids, 19 kids. All He came from a family of 8.
Okay.
Now, his older brothers, I have found his oldest brother, which just happens to be, his name was Columbus Curd. That's what his father, Henry Curd, named him. He did not like that name. So he just hyphenated his name to Lum. So when he went to World War I, he was now Lum Curd. That's what officially name change.
Okay.
There's another cousin or a family member called Odie. I don't know if that's the correct way how you spell his name, but that's what's on the census. I can't find out where he passed away. Of the 7 kids, that's the only one I can't find. So I don't know where he's gone. Because males, after they get to a certain age, they're on their own. They go wherever they got to go. But the one that your mother was talking about, there is a Martha Curd, a Martha Curd, a Betty Curd, a Minnie Curd, and Henrietta. According to family lore, supposedly in the old days, if you wasn't the world's best child, just like you've heard before, nowadays they say, I'm gonna send you to somebody's house to beat you. In the old days, they used to put you in the sanitarium for reasons why you just didn't cooperate with your kids. I mean, cooperate with your mother and your father. So I'll send you to Anna and all the rest of them that they knew of. Two of our aunts, for whatever reason, ended up there. I don't know why. I can't find out why, because that's in the state of Illinois, that's privileged information, and I will never know how it is.
Really? Okay, wait a second. 2 of our aunties in Illinois was put into a
Yes.
sanitarium?
No, sanitariums. They did not call them sanitariums.
What is a sanitarium?
The
What is
same.
that?
Yes. Yes.
They
I
had
don't know.
shock treatment?
Well, no, they may have had shock treatment, but they also at the time could have been that if one of them was married and her husband died, maybe she didn't take it well. Instead of sitting here giving her a little help, they put her in the sanitarium. By the time you get in the system, it's harder to get out than once you just that you got in. Those 2 I found also where they're even buried at. I know. Wow. That's a family secret that nobody talked about. Even Grandpa. He went about his life. He did not speak about it.
Wow.
So that's some of the strange stuff I find. So we've got cousins out there somewhere, but sometimes even with you having cousins out there, cousins don't want to talk to you for whatever reason. Like I know there's one of our cousins that possibly has a trunk full of family photos.
Really?
But I'm never going to get a hold of them because she doesn't show them nobody.
Oh, that's too bad.
And I can't talk to them because they're a little bit older than I am, and they think all I want to do is get information. I tell them all I do is want to contact family.
Yeah.
So right down until they want to talk to me, I don't speak to them, they don't speak to me. So that's life. Can't do nothing about that.
Yeah, that's sad because, it takes a village and we are all a community. And like you say, Aunt Belinda, I mean, obviously we all connected by
Thank you. Yes. A
yes,
very thin
our
line.
hair.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
are.
So, it's hurtful that, you wouldn't want kind of, mend the village and, like you say, the tribe and kind of, be able to know your family.
Mhm.
Yes.
It's important.
So on your tree, do you have the family all the way up to Henry Curd and Angeline Barnhill?
Yes.
Okay, so you have Henry and Angeline. So
Yeah.
do you have the parents of Henry Curd and Angeline Curd?
Now that I don't look like I have.
Ah, well, no problem. That is Columbus Curd, where the name came from, and Martha Sled. And the other one is Edward Barnhill and Amelia Thomas.
Okay.
One of these days when we come down there, when we come down to visit our granddaughter, we'll stop by your house.
Yes. That would be nice.
But Nikki, there are some
You know
famous
what?
people.
I do have Martha Sled. I do have Martha Sled
Okay.
for
The Curd side of the family.
the Curd side of the family. I have Martha Sled, and then I actually have nothing for her as far as parents go.
Check. All right, we'll try and update you. Don't worry about it.
That's the one
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Belinda?
No, I was telling Nikki that out of Cairo, Illinois, Cairo is like a ghost town. If you Google it, it is one of the ghost towns of Illinois. And it's sad when you go there. I mean, when you leave, you're in a whole different frame of mind. You think you've been to a third world or something. But there is a famous African-American actor that came out of there, Christopher Jackson. You remember him, Reggie? Christopher
Yes.
Jackson. He played in Hamilton.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah. So great things has come out of that little town.
Well, all of us. Yes, that's it.
Okay.
The background. I'm basically, wanting to understand. So even for Angeline Barnhill,
Mm-hmm.
obviously that's Grandpa Curd's
That is
mother, correct?
yes. Yes, it is.
And now, are they from Illinois as well?
Actually, let me see. Angeline is from Mounds. I'm sorry, she's from Huntington, Huntingdon, Huntington, Carroll County, Tennessee. He is from Mayfield, Graves, Kentucky. And an interesting thing about that.
Go ahead.
Have you heard of Mayfield, Graves, Kentucky?
No.
Okay. What happened was basically probably a week before we were going to go to Mayfield, because we were going to go to Mayfield next, me and Belinda. They had a what do you call them? Not tornadoes. They had been killing all these people in homes right now. Tornado. They had a tornado go through their town. So that tornado probably wiped out City Hall. So if that's the case, I just probably lost all the information that I could find.
Oh.
So I can't go any further back on that until they get it up. So I'll just have to wait till we can go there. I'm hoping they do. I'm hoping everything is in the Kentucky archives, wherever the main Kentucky archives is at.
Yeah, I would think so, because that's like what's that, 1871?
Yes.
Yeah, that's I would hope that those type of materials would already
Okay.
archived, whatever they put on digital iCloud.
Oh, by the way, Nikki, since we're sitting there talking about some people not wanting to talk to me, there was a white woman one day that she basically sent me a message through ancestry.com. She asked me, "Are you a relative of Henry Curd?"
Mhm.
I was confused for a second because I didn't know her, didn't know who she was. Then it possibly hit me when I seen her name. Her last name was Curd. So my question to her was, did the Curd family have slaves? I've never heard another response from her again. So that tells me right there, that was the Curd family that owned slaves. When they left, they were all Kurds. They just kept the Kurd name.
Right.
I
Yeah,
don't know why, but they just didn't. And
yeah,
that's where the Kurds came from.
yeah, sounding like it. Definitely sounding like it.
Ah.
I know that yeah, it kind of runs into something that it happens on the other side, on my father's side of the family, that there is a situation that my great great grandfather, in the beginning, he is on the census because
Okay.
because he is white.
Hey, I have
Now,
I gotta
when it
go ahead.
comes back that he's with children and with his wife,
Mm-hmm.
no longer a white man. He gets a totally different title here.
So you know what that
Mulatto?
means, right?
Yes. Yes. How? How did
Because
you
what
become
it
a
means,
mulatto?
well, actually, the terminology is bright, damn near white. So yes, he may have been mulatto that could have passed, but he knew the second that he was with a black family, he wasn't gonna pass no more. They wasn't gonna let that happen.
Mm.
So that's probably what happened. But you also have to remember at the same time, in order for slavery to continue, since we've been there since 1619, the only way for it to survive was for the slave owner to have his biggest buck impregnate the women there.
Yeah. Like a breeding.
Yes, sir. You want to keep that going.
Yeah.
You know, I sit here and think about, there's a place called down in Florida where they don't want to say some of this stuff that we're talking about right now never happened.
Never happened.
But I'm trying to figure out, so okay, so you want young folks to be young and dumb. So when they run into a black person, they think they superior. That's not how it's supposed to be.
Not only that, here's the thing. I even had this conversation with someone who believes that this is okay, that this is okay. And this is what I say to that. It's not okay. You know,
No.
and here's the reason why it's not okay. We say, okay, we're educating our children. They should be educated on this type of thing at home. Well, let's say that they're not. You know what I'm saying? They're not educated on this type of thing at home. Or they don't live in a home where this type of education would even be brought up. Or
Exactly.
their own family is not taught in this type of education. So how do they know about teaching somebody else this? So in context, it is something that needs to be said. And also, how can you, as a person outside of us or outside of this context that this narrative that you're not a part of, learn about it if it's not taught?
Yes.
You want us to learn about, you want us to learn about history as a whole, as it approaches to American history, to the Revolutionary War, to the Civil War, to you want us to learn all these things, but cut out a big narrative in that lesson.
Yes.
Do that. You can't do that. You are rewriting, so to speak, your own narrative, your own history. And that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable, people.
No,
that's
it's not right.
That's true.
And on any context, is that acceptable?
Yay. And yes, that's what they're trying to do down in Florida. But you ask some people, they sit there and say, nope.
It's not only happening there. We just been outraged by it because it's been brought to the forefront. It is also in South Carolina. There is a bill out there as well to stop. In Virginia, there is a bill out there to stop education of Black American studies, of African.
Okay. But my question is this. Okay, if it isn't for the Lovings, drink up. If it wasn't for the Lovings, and you know who that is, right?
No.
Okay. The Lovings was a white man and a Black woman wanted to get married, and they were in Virginia. At that time, they could not. Their case went all the way to the Supreme Court just to say a white man and a Black woman can get married, even though they had been living together like they'd been married forever. It's no different than the 1954 case of the Board of Education, which is the separate but equal doctrine. There's been a lot of things that have been screwed up.
Now, look, I can understand the concept of separate but equal. But here's the thing. You have to be teaching us still the same thing. You understand?
Yep. Yes.
We still deserve the same education. We still deserve the same information. So just like I'm going to get the information about my culture, my heritage, I'm going to get the information about your culture, your heritage, and vice versa. You should, because we are, like they say, in this melting pot together. We have to coexist together, and we have to, be able to empathize with each other. I mean, that's the peaceful thing to do, to say.
Yes. But that's why I sit there saying that didn't come till 1954. And even after Thurgood Marshall won the case before the Supreme Court, white folks didn't want nothing to happen until it's probably 1960, 1964. I mean, when I was born, when I was little. So literally, I don't know why things are, but they are where they are.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a funny thing happened to me. All right, while I was doing genealogy, remember I sat there and told you about a person, I'm sorry, correction. Let me correct myself.
Oh, okay.
Lizzie King.
Oh, what did you tell me about her last child?
Her last child.
Is that Beatrice?
Bingo.
Beatrice?
Oh, okay. I remember.
Right. Well, I didn't even know Beatrice existed. So one day doing genealogy, since we knew we had cousins that went to Cincinnati, your aunt and I went to the public library in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
We stayed there 5 days. Went over everything that could be found. Couldn't find nobody. Oh. So what I always try to say, because your uncle sometimes don't read everything he's supposed to, meaning what's in front of him, I sort of flip things. So it came to the last hour of the last minute, that going through phone books. In the last hour of the last minute, your aunt gave me a phone number and I called it. The problem was I turned the numbers around. When she told me I told the numbers around, okay, I redialed the number. Somebody picked up the phone. This is what we say when you do genealogy. Sometimes you have to do a cold call. I told the person who I was. I told him, I'm looking for a person by the name of, not the actress. Hold on. I'm looking for a person by the name Marie Wallace. I was wondering, is Marie Wallace ever there? I get a pause for a second. The man said, you sure you're talking about Marie Wallace? Yes, sir. I don't know anybody else. Okay. He said, Marie Wallace was my mother. Oh, Lord snap. You mean tell me 5 days I've been here and this is the first time we found something?
Oh, wow.
Because the next day we were going back over here to Oklahoma. I didn't even know this man existed. I had his sister. And her name is the one I was actually looking for, not him. So what ended up happening is basically, well, he sat there and said, you sound like an honest person. We can meet. I told him, well, we're in the library. We can meet there somewhere public. So what? He sat there and gave me his address. I got the heck out of that damn library. And I drove to his house, GPS his location, and drove. Found out his sister's name. His name was Ernest. Hold on. He was the brother of Barbara Jean Wallace, the one I was looking for. This was in the 1940 census. I didn't even know about him. So when he
wasn't even on the census itself?
Nope, he was not even on the census. So what I did, we drove out there and found out it was actually him. He talked about his brother. There was another brother by the name of David. These are your cousins.
Wow.
It's the first time we ever met anybody. Didn't meet nothing. All of a sudden, our problem was the next day we were leaving. So while we were sitting here waiting, we got a phone call on my phone. I didn't understand the number, but this is one time I answered it. She said, hello, my name is Barbara Wallace. That's the actual woman I was looking for. She said, I hear that y'all leaving. Of course, your dumb uncle said, leaving where? Oh, no, we not. I'll pay for a ticket later. We drove down to a place called Georgetown, Kentucky. It was an hour plus from her brother Ernest's house. We got to meet her, got to meet him because he drove down.
Right.
Didn't get to meet David because David at the time was doing other stuff, but he showed up later. So I got to meet a whole entire tree I knew nothing about. Nothing. Wow. The only person who possibly knew something about it, but of course, if I can't teach you anything about genealogy, I'm going to teach you this. Do your own homework first, which means if you're going to go talk to a family, if you're doing genealogy, talk to a family member. I never spoke to Aunt Katie while I was doing this genealogy. After I found the person, Katie's middle name is Barbara. That's the person she's named after. I said, oh, Lord. I asked her, how long have you known this? She said, I've known it forever. So I said, so well, I've been out here searching for somebody and you could have told me. He didn't ask.
Yeah, that's it. That's generally what it is nowadays, is we just don't ask, we don't say no.
So that is the biggest discovery I have made in my genealogy, bar none. When you go from a total when you go from a total not knowing anything to all of a sudden and found out Ernest is a pastor.
Oh wow. Okay.
So one of these days, the next time we have a family get together, where I'm sitting like, I'm trying to put it somewhere close that all of us can show up to, including you. And yeah, if I got to drive, you can drive.
I can drive.
Okay. Just make sure you bring one of your children with you, so you can have somebody drive with you.
Yes,
That way you can.
That's the
That
thing.
way you. Yeah. That way you can
Well,
meet
with
some of the
that
family.
said, what's going on with the family reunion? What?
Somebody to help me. I'm trying to talk to one of our other cousins who has her home is in Stone Mountain, Georgia. That would be a convenient place. You can at least fly into Atlanta, drive to the hotel. It's at Stone Mountain. Ain't none of us been there except for her. Yeah. And it would be someplace where all of us could be at.
Right. Yeah. That would be interesting.
Now, the second thing about that, Black folks, when you talk about money, everybody's saying I got it next week. That don't work sometimes. Linda and I don't mind getting up and going somewhere. Since that we're retired, we got to find something to do.
Well, I certainly appreciate you both coming and joining with me on Our Theory, talking relatives.
Yeah. Now,
thank you so much with another edition of Owl Theory, the Night Owls. We are talking relatives. So until next time, please enjoy many of our other videos and segments under NIKIKI'S Village at Human Life 1012. Take a look at that. And until next time, peace, much love.